We're in Hammond at a construction site where a local dog found human remains Wednesday. Many traffickers carry large amounts of drugs in their vehicles, all invisible to the naked eye. Experts say designer drugs will only continue to evolve, and just because something is legal doesn't mean it's safe. Most people can't remember what they ate last week, let alone where they were a year ago. But for people all over the world, the moment they heard about the September 11th hijackings will forever haunt their memories. We're told Philpott is making arrangements to turn himself in next week, and the 3 officers have already entered into plea agreements with the government. We're here outside Felony Frank's just west of downtown Chicago, where owner Jim Andrews has made it his mission to only hire ex-felons. Before deploying to Iraq, Sergeant Dwayne Haney says he felt like Superman. A husband, father, professional motorcycle racer, and a communications chief in the Army, he felt like he could do anything. But after suffering a shoulder injury and post-traumatic stress disorder, Haney says his perception on what defines a good soldier has changed. We're in Hammond at a construction site where a local dog found human remains Wednesday. Behind me, anthropologist Stephen Naraki and his University of Indianapolis grad students are searching for human remains and removing at least one skull. And the one who discovered it all? Brutus, a Rottweiler whose owners live next door to the demolition site. On Wednesday, he brought his owner's finger bones, and when they followed Brutus outside, they found even more.
He went back to that plastic bag, tore at it with his teeth, trying to pull it out of the ground, and I said, kind of moved him out of the way and unveiled a skull.
Officials brought in forensic anthropologist Stephen Naraki to identify whether the remains were human, and if so, to find all the bones scattered throughout the site. Naraki and his students started combing over the grounds at about 8:30 Friday morning, marking locations to excavate and gently removing the skull from the earth. Hammond Police Chief Brian Miller said it appeared some of the remains were placed in a plastic bag in what would have been a crawl space in the building of an old bait and tackle shop. And at this point, he's calling it a death investigation.
Just a guess. We feel that it's a female because of the size of the ring and because of the type of ring that was on her finger. We believe it to be a female body. It has been there a while. We don't know how long, but certainly several years.
Neighbors said it was troubling to hear the news.
My whole life we've played in the yard, right? I mean, we've played manhunt, we've ran around in neighbors' yards, and we've ran around in this yard, and this whole time has been a dead body, and it's disgusting. I'm a mother of a 16-month-old. I couldn't even imagine how it feels to see this, if it is a mother at home wondering if this is my kid. And they say that things have changed a lot in the area in the days since the body was found.
Well, I hope they don't find any more bodies, then we really got a story. Yeah, it's kind of, it's a quiet neighborhood, not much happens, and all of a sudden we got all kind of TV stations here asking us questions, and coroners and cops in Indianapolis.
The Lake County Coroner's Office will take custody of the remains and conduct forensic testing. I'm Sarah Tompkins reporting for The Times. Be sure to check out NWI.com for all the latest updates. Gas stations and smoke shops across the country are selling products marketed as bath salts and incense. But law enforcement and medical experts say they're actually synthetic versions of meth, cocaine, and marijuana. And more Hoosiers are using them to get high.
You're not in control. You may think you're in control, but you are not in control. Everybody experiments. But it's nothing to experiment with. It's like playing Russian roulette.
That's the voice of experience, one that led this Northwest Indiana man to an addiction and ER room and rehab.
These aren't the bath salts you're finding at your neighborhood store that you're using at home. These are just being sold as bath salts. It's a way for the manufacturers to say, hey, this isn't for human consumption. It has another purpose, and that way they're able to skirt some of the Food and Drug Administration laws for that. And also, it's one of the things that DEA needs to prove under the Analog Act, which we can show that some of these compounds might be analogs of already controlled substances, but there's a few different things we need to prove. And the most difficult one is to prove that it was being manufactured, sold, possessed, in order for somebody to use it for human consumption to get an effect that is similar to a controlled substance.
The local addict says bath salts are just like cocaine, and they gave him an intense energy that kept him up at night working on household projects.
I wasn't really making the decisions for myself at that point. The disease was lying for me. It was basically showing me the way. that it wanted me to go.
From what I've seen, the progression is very rapid. It seems to grab a hold of people very quickly and really have a tight hold on them. From what I've seen, the people that are able to get off of it are the people that are in a environment where they can no longer get it, whether it be detox, jail, etc.
And when users can't get away from that dependency, they're calling law enforcement for help.
They go into such a panic that they admit to what they've ingested right away. So our officers are able to respond to EMS, what they've taken and what they've done, which is good for the hospital and the knowledge for the doctors. At least they know what they're dealing with.
While synthetic drugs have taken hold in the region, local officials say the substances are not requiring as much attention from law enforcement as heroin and cocaine.
I don't mean it when I say we don't have an issue with K2 or bath salts in Lake County. I'm saying that we haven't seen a significant, encounters with it.
Within the first few weeks of June alone, the State Poison Center received more than 30 calls about bath salts from Lake and Porter County hospitals.
There's so much of it out there. What's being reported and what's being used probably don't correlate. There's how many people that use this stuff and these substances that we don't get to. But we get to hear about how terrible it is when these people become combative, they become agitated, paranoid, delusional, and then they start doing things like attacking family members with weapons because they thought that they were monsters.
He said synthetic drugs can be more potent and more addicting than their counterparts, and the substances can't be detected in most drug tests.
Really, we don't know what the results and the effects on individuals are. So it's a scary area where they're moving just as fast trying to put out new products, and we don't even know where some of these are originating from, and then they're ending up in shelves of stores in the U.S. People can go online.
Experts say designer drugs will only continue to evolve, and just because something is legal doesn't mean it's safe. I'm Sarah Tompkins reporting for NWI.com. Beer. But this isn't your average red cup beverage. Three Floyds brews handmade crafts from everything from cherries to chocolate. And for one day each spring, they unleash a special product, Dark Lord.
It's going to be a very, very thick, viscous beer. It's going to have a huge mouthfeel. It's going to have a lot of intense roasted flavors in it, almost like a little bit of umami, a little bit of some very dark caramel, a little bit of cocoa nibs, baker's chocolate. A ton of coffee.
The event has grown in popularity over the years, and the 6,000 tickets to the 2011 bash sold out weeks before the event.
It grew organically. None of us are party planners, and back when we first started making the beer, there were only a handful of employees, or maybe 5 employees. So what we had to do is so many people kept on showing up at the brewery that we had to actually take steps to make sure that we could get people, fed, get them places to go to the bathroom, those sorts of things, and it's just now grown into this sort of monstrosity that we know now.
Three Floyds produces more than 15,000 barrels of its unique beer each year, with seasonal releases that Struve says are in high demand. As the local brewery has become more popular, he said there was concern it would have to cut production to still qualify for the state's definition of a microbrewery and reap the tax breaks that come with it.
That said, a microbrewery is 20,000 barrels, and now we're coming up rapidly upon that. And they said once you're no longer a microbrewery, you can't have a pub, you can't have a tasting room, and we got a lot of employees, and we're generating a fair amount of revenue that equates into tax dollars for everybody. And I don't see why they would want to, in this current climate, why they would want to stifle a local business.
Three Floyds was a vocal critic to the law, and as the largest microbrewery in the state, its employees went to Indianapolis to testify against it. Earlier this month, the State House and Senate voted to increase the 20,000 barrels per year limit. Now Struve says the company can continue to expand. But at the end of the day, he says Three Floyds will always keep its neighborhood pub atmosphere.
We have grannies coming in here. We're like, oh, Dreadnoughts, I love it. It's awesome.
If you plan on checking out Saturday's event, gates open at 10 a.m. There's a 4-bottle limit of Dark Lord per person, going to $15 a pop, cash only. And the alcohol content is relatively high, so remember to designate a driver and enjoy responsibly while supplies last.